It's a real oxymoron, isn't it? But it's true. And this message isn't for everyone. Obviously, there's some people, they don't have the capacity to overcome this. They don't even think it's a problem, lust. And they end up doing things that usually get them locked up or worse. And so, yeah, disclaimer. I'm talking to those beings who, a lot of you tune to my channel because you are on the level of the things that we share here and you can assimilate it. I'm talking to them. So when we're talking about lust, what we're really talking about, lust in its organic form, it's not really lust. What it is this impulse, this organic impulse that's charged with an incredible amount of life force to connect with the opposite energy polarity. Because consciousness, because it's identified with this human self, that means it's half of the whole. A man, playing the role as a man. So biologically, do I have the X or the Y chromosome? You have to ask scientists. I wonder how she's doing. I had a good scientist that used to come to my groups all the time. I haven't heard from her. Drop me a comment or a message if you're still here. So I'm half of the whole, and so this strong impulse is there with me it's in my DNA to connect, okay? And it's backed with an incredible amount of life force, and so there's no just, oh, I'm just gonna switch it off because like I don't wanna do it anymore. No, you're compelled in one way or the other. We're gonna talk about those ways. But because it has so much life force behind this impulse, it can either be, it's either gonna keep you in bondage, which is the case for most people, or it's gonna set you free. This life force that's in this second most strongest instinct, sexual instinct, that's what we're talking about. The only thing stronger than that is the self-preservation instinct. And you see how strong that is. The sexual instinct is just a little bit underneath that. That energy, that life force in there, it will either keep me bound or it will actually become the fuel to transcend, to wake up from this human identity and even transcend these deep instinctual programs, such as the sexual instinct. Now, how do we veer off course? Why can't we just say, yeah, it's natural, I'm gonna connect with somebody and we'll just live happily and enjoy each other? Yeah. A lot of these things that we say and the comments people leave, yeah, it sounds good on paper. Can you do it? Might be a nice Hallmark card type quote that you're striving towards, but what's the actual practical reality? So what happens is the mind, it takes this natural organic impulse to connect with the opposite sex, and it like creates an image, and then it goes about trying to it gets relief, artificial relief and satisfaction through uncountable ways of fulfilling this projection and image in its mind. Because most people, you don't go to high school, you meet the love of your life, you get married, and you guys get along and you talk about your problems. If issues come up, you don't hide it and sweep it under the carpet, and you don't go cheat on each other, you work it out and talk. Yeah, that's not the case. So what happens is we get into relationships, and this impulse that we're born with, it doesn't get satisfied. In fact, it gets more corrupted. And so, and a lot of people, especially nowadays, I don't know, is it social media's fault? Probably. Relationships are even harder to form, I think. I don't know. I'm curious, if I grew up now, two things would happen. Either, I mean, I know what would happen, but two things. At first, I'd be like, damn, this sucks. A lot of guys and probably women can relate. they're like I'm not going to go on a dating site and try to do some silly talk, or I don't feel like approaching the people because they're so cut off. There's like no space. There's not a welcoming presence. And when we do approach, it's like just formalities and being guarded. And this is why I like the villages when I went overseas. They're harder to find now probably, but man, I get some really nice connection there with the opposite sex there. So what would I do if I was in that situation? And I can't connect. The impulse is there to want to connect and to merge because the consciousness wants to do that. I can't turn off that software program, but yet I can't connect. I'd probably get depressed for a minute and maybe angry and resentful. I don't think I would make the woman hater videos and say, oh, women suck. There's so many of those. And the women make videos saying all guys suck. But I don't think I could do that because that's like no solution. I was always solution oriented. No matter how challenging a situation was, I couldn't just be like, okay, this is just, I'm screwed my whole life. Like I always intuitively knew there had to be some light at the end of the tunnel. It just sucked a lot of times waiting for that light. That's why I try to remind people, we don't know when we're going to reach the light. There's all this training that needs to happen before we reach the light so that we can actually enjoy the light and not slip back into the darkness. That's another subject. So I'd probably get depressed and resentful for a minute that I couldn't connect. And then I'd probably, you see, this could go the other way. This is like I was sharing at the beginning of the video. It could morph into awakening is easier because I'd see like, well, I can't do it. All right, God, my attention then would turn inward because I would see that I can't get these needs met, no matter if they were biological or not. And so something would just be like, universe, divine, mystery, help me. I'm here. You put me here. I have these strong software programs, strong energetic impulse, but I can't satisfy it. You're going to have to help me overcome this. You're going to have to help me transcend this. There'd be some talk like that, and I would start listening. I was going to talk about this at the end of the video because we're getting into the solution now. But I think that's what would happen. That's what happened anyway, because even though I did find a few really good matches, girlfriends, it still was unsatisfying after a certain point. Another human being can't give me what I need or satisfy me on the deepest level of my being. I don't care who they are. They can't do it. So I realized that after some decades, and so this interiorized focus became automatic, and I started looking inside for the satisfaction. Okay, so that's more solution oriented. Let's backtrack a little bit and say how this gets warped though. This natural biological impulse toward wanting to merge with the opposite sex. The mind creates an image of what that looks like or what that means, and then it starts using artificial means in ways to try to get satisfaction, get stimulation. How? Well, there's countless ways, but looking at, let's say, adult content on the internet, trying to get your needs met there, because when you do that, it's real easy to check out. It's a very strong vortex when you get pulled into that. And you can imagine that you're in it and you're doing things, or you can just have fantasy, just pure fantasy alone. I've said before, somebody could be confined to a hospital bed and still be deep into lust. Just with the mind, just with fantasy, because you get some artificial relief and satisfaction when you start playing with these images. The problem is it makes you an addict and it will never satisfy you, and then usually you need a stronger hit. What used to give you satisfaction or a dopamine release before doesn't work after a while, then you need something stronger. And some people get to the point where you start doing dangerous things, like real dangerous things, like things that are, man, embarrassing. I've seen some videos where I seen a grandfather. He was on vacation with his family, and the hotel had a lazy river, you know, where you chill in the river and go around. And he was in the river, and some people had a video filming because some kids were complaining about him, that he was touching them inappropriately. So, you know, kind of bumping into him, like, oops, sorry. And so they started videoing him, and then they called the police, and they knock on the door, and he's with his family, and they arrest him and verbalize what the charge is. His grandkids are there, his son is there, his wife is there, imagine. Because he became a real addict. This is a sickness, it's not a choice. That's why when you understand that, you be grateful that grace is helping you and this isn't your karma, because you just don't know. What do you think? You think he can just choose not to do it? Is that easy? A naive person might think that, but if you've done deep introspection in your life, you know how strong these karmic tendencies are, especially when we're talking about the second most strongest instinct, which is what we're talking about. So, this video is for the higher beings, and the reason that the lust can come up more strong when you start to wake up is because of this. We can say, I've made videos touching on this, and I'll keep doing it. Some of you, your soul this is the last arc. It's on that level. You're no longer a bot playing in society, just getting used to having a human body and what it feels like to make money and to like have fun and get material things and accolades. Like, you're done. You've done too many lifetimes like that already. In this lifetime, it's about waking up. Well, the quickest way to wake up is when all of these, you can say, sexual karmas start to uproot, so that then you can transcend. See, most people, they're not aware of their shadow side. This is another paradox or irony. You can see, we're taught to judge on very surface level. So you can look at somebody who's smiling and they're dressed up nice and they have all the formalities and pleasantries, and they can be totally asleep, man. Their shadow side hasn't even came up yet. They don't even know yet what's inside them. They don't even know what they're gonna have to deal with at some point. Now, some of you, all these little sexual tendencies and karmas are coming up, and it's real messy, and they're coming up so that you can be free of that, so that then your awakening is organic. It's so organic you don't even call it awakening. It's just kind of silly. I'm awake now. Like, you don't even, like, what do you mean? You're what you are. That's really how you feel inside. So how do you transcend these causal seeds, deep seeds, if they don't come up? You see, so grace, paradoxically, is helping you to transcend them by them coming up. Now, what's the difference between a higher being and a lower being when I'm talking about these kind of things? A lower being isn't going to be conscious or aware or doing introspection in their life when these things are coming up. They're just going to be asleep and it's going to be dragging them all over the place. They're not even going to hardly question it. The higher beings, you feel it. You're like, why am I drawn to go look in the computer again at these stupid images? Like, are you serious? Oh, I know I'm going to feel bad afterwards. It totally messes up my equilibrium and my brain chemistry and floods my system with excessive dopamine, and then increases the urge to do it again, and I'm just like stuck in this diabolical positive feedback loop. How, like what? You see, you're doing the introspection, the analysis. You're checking that out. This is a higher being. It's by grace that you're doing that. You're not even, like, you can't take credit for it. What, are you choosing to do that? No, something is more awake in you, and it's time now for you to look at these things. So grace is going to bring all that stuff up in you for you to look at it and then transcend it. What's the technique to transcend it? There are none. You got to burn through it. Lust gets burnt out of you. It comes up and then it gets burnt out of you. There's not some easy method thing that you can do and you can just say some mantra or do some the Ashwini Mudra or Mula Bandha or pranayama and now it's better again. You know, I mean, try all that. I did. I understand. But ultimately, these causal seeds that I'm talking about, they're gonna have to get fried. That's messy. That means there needs to be friction to create the heat necessary to fry these deep causal seeds. What's the friction? The friction is, you can say, your lower self fighting against your higher self. The higher self isn't fighting, it's the lower self that's fighting, but you're in this human body, and this is where the fight takes place, and so you experience that, and that creates friction. Your higher nature knows it's stupid, like you want to be free of that, because something intuitively knows the amount of life force that becomes freed up and available when you're free of this. It's like next level. You overcome the world, literally. This whole world is run by the sexual instinct and this incredible amount of life force that's in it. So many decisions and everything people do is somehow related to trying to fulfill or get satisfied this sexual instinct. So the lower self, it wants to do this stuff. It's trying to satisfy this projected image that the mind has created in the way it's distorted this natural organic tendency to want to merge with the opposite sex. The mind has taken that, stepped it down, morphed it, and just turned it into just a dark shadow. You're like playing with dark shadows, getting temporary relief that keeps you stuck. So that's the lower self. Your higher self, it's calling you to freedom. But yet you can't do it. Like, I'm still stuck in the habits and addictions. That's the friction. You got to bear that for a while. You have to go through that. And then that's what burns up the seed. And then I don't know how it works, by some divine mystery, divine timing, you just notice one day, damn, this is stupid. I'm not going to go out now and go to the club like I normally do, or go to this stimulating environment to try to be seen and get seen, and maybe I'll get lucky. You're like, that just becomes like very unappealing. Whereas before that, you would get juice from that. The things you used to get juice from, now it takes your juice. You see, that's a shift. That's an organic paradigm inner shift when that happens. And that's what will happen. As long as you're aware, a higher being is aware of his higher nature and lower nature. These are the beings I'm talking to. I don't know how to help the other people. It's not my field. It's not my destiny. There's plenty of other people that can do that. Motivational coaches and life coaches, and I don't know. I'm talking to the individuals. This is my specialty. I like to talk to the individuals who are already at a certain level that can tune to this message. So you're in good shape, even though it may not feel like it, even though if you relapse, it's just like, that's part of the deal, man. It's part of the deal. You got to look at this like you're you're in the Olympics, and sometimes you win, or most of the time you lose, but sometimes you win. This is a little different because you will win at some point. We just don't know when. Where are we at? Damn, almost 20 minutes. So the more messy that your life is, actually the better it is. It's easier to see that in retrospect. When you're in it, it's hard to see that. I wish somebody would have told me that, though, during those days when I was in it. I can't recall anybody I definitely didn't see or hear anybody talk like I'm talking. So I'm talking to those who might just need a little lift, a little inspiration and it confirms what you already know intuitively anyway. See, if you don't already know this intuitively, my words probably won't help too much, because you have your own belief system, and it's okay. Those who kind of already know this, then my words have some power for you. And so I'm talking to you. Now, the way it works for me, whatever your habits are or addictions, usually it works in the sense you start to be free of your grosser, more denser addictions, more, heavier stuff. You start to burn through that. Then it starts to get more subtle. Why? Because the consciousness wants to be free in the truest sense of the word. Subtle stuff. It wants to be free on the subtle level. So you stop looking at the things and doing the overt acts that is a real demonstration of being the sexual impulse being warped. You stop doing that stuff, and then it gets more refined. Then you start catching out the things like, well, I'm in public and there's a girl, oh, she kind of looked like she was a little interested. Okay, I'm gonna milk that. I'm gonna like get in her point of view now, and her, so she can see me, and then maybe we can do it again. Get that validation, get that. You see, that's more subtle. That's so subtle that most people, they don't even think it's a problem. They don't even know what's wrong with it. And here's the thing, if you don't think it's a problem, it's not a problem. Go do it. The truth, the truth is relative. It's relative depending on the level of consciousness that you're at. What was true for you 5 years ago or 10 years ago? If you're a true sadhaka and you're on the accelerated path of awakening, what's true for you 5 years ago isn't going to be as true now. Now you have another level of truth. At some point, you want to just get rid of all these stupid little things. They become stupid. They used to be fun, now they're stupid. Now, you don't mind talking to somebody if it's a true connection, if there's a real, authentic, genuine sharing of energy, that's different. That's harder to find, but you reach a place inside to where you won't settle for anything less. It has to be that way. Otherwise, you'll be alone. So a real master, all masters have to go through this, by the way. This is just the way it works. See, when we read about masters who aren't here anymore, or even the ones that are here, you think they talk about this stuff? They like to portray, or their disciples are the ones that usually do it. They highlight all the positive aspects of the master. They don't share about the other stuff. But they all had to go through this, if not this life, previous. So a real master looks at this. They don't see these sexual karmas as obstacles. They see it as I said in the beginning, they see it as the true fuel that's necessary to cause this shift inside, or this awakening. You need some strong rocket fuel to bust out of this delusion or maya, this hypnotic trance that the consciousness is in. You need some real dynamite. That's your dynamite. The life force that is in this strong sexual impulse to connect with the opposite sex. That's where all the life force is, and you find that out the more you're free of it, because your whole world shifts, because there's no energy going into this play anymore. You understand how it infiltrates almost on every level of a person, from what they wear to where they go, to what they buy at the store, even their motives for working out or looking healthy or being spiritual. It's all a lot of times rooted still, if you do deep enough introspection, it's rooted in the sexual instinct somehow of how I'm going to be portrayed to others. So when that causal seed gets fried, you have this surplus energy you don't even know what to do with it. Your sleep's going to get less, just your whole world changes. So some of you can hear this message and see, I'm talking to them. That's it. Just to piggyback a little more on the solution before we end. when this fight is going on between the lower and higher self, this is what causes you to have a relationship with this divine mystery or source inside, because you have nowhere else to go. You see, you've tried all the techniques, you've talked to all the people, and nothing really works long term. It's like that seed won't go away. It's still there, that tendency, that propulsion. So you direct your attention inside and you start talking to something. You just start being open and willing, and you're sharing your struggles with the divine. And you're open to hearing some response, some guidance, something, some intuitive thought or feeling or direction, something. And if you don't hear it, that's fine. You continue to be open to hear it. That's a real spiritual practice. You just keep, because you got nothing else to talk to or nothing else to do. When you're a sleepwalker, when you're a zombie out here and you're totally immersed in the matrix, you got plenty of things to do. You're not going to be, you can't, see, a lot of people, they want to get spiritual so they can go do everything out here better. Yeah, at some point you see that don't work. What do they say? Two kings can't sit on the same throne. So, you organically, you see, it's not a spiritual practice anymore. You're not practicing. You got nowhere to go except inside. That's organic. Then you get relief. Then you get some real results, which brings some relief. And that's you gotta give your life up and say, if it takes my whole life to be free, I'm down. You usually can't have such a conviction until you experience, to a sufficient degree, depending on your karma, trying to get the world out here to satisfy you. At some point, I like what Yogananda said. He said at some point the baby throws away all the toys that his mother gave him and say, I don't want the toys anymore, I want you, Mom. When that becomes real for you, then you can start to make some progress. All right, good. I'll see you.